No Movies in Hell. I'm Chris Geiger.
I'm LaClaw Scott, and today we are reviewing Drive My Car.
You were just saying you think that the lead actress in Drive My Car might end up on the Oscar nomination list.
I believe the actress who plays the deaf woman in the play, well, I guess she plays the deaf woman in this role in Drive My Car will probably be nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I think she had like a number of moments where there was you got to know more about her character and and more about her family situation, and then the opportunity for her to be in this play that is put on by the main character.
Well, I wanted to see this movie. I saw that it was out when we were in France in September, and I didn't see it because it was translated into French. That would not have helped me that much. I put it on my list at the time, and then it didn't come out, and it didn't come out in New York. And now I'm not in New York, and it's out in New York, but it's not out where I am. So I might miss it unless it hangs out for 3.5 weeks. Which I'm guessing it's not gonna, because it's already been out for a week or so. Maybe though.
No, I feel like it's going to come back. It's likely to come back because there's rumors of best picture nomination.
That's true. Do you remember AMC used to do this thing where they would show all the Oscar best picture noms in one weekend, and you would buy like this massive ticket and you just go, and that was a great way to sort of pick up the ones that I had missed along the year. So I know it's COVID. I hope they do it again this year.
I hope they do too. I mean, that's a really great way to like get caught up. Okay, so if you didn't see it, then do you want to wait until you see it?
No, because I might completely miss it.
No, I think I would love to talk about it with you. Because there are some moments we could do it later.
Okay.
And talk about the rescue. Because I was like, oh, I really want to like talk to Chris about, I don't want to give spoilers, so I apologize, but but yeah, I would love to talk to you about this movie because it's interesting. It's very interesting, very different.
Okay. We'll put this on the back burner then for a while.
Okay.
So The Rescue.
Here's our
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to No Movies in Hell. I'm Chris Geiger.
And I'm LaClaw Scott. And today we are reviewing The Rescue. It is currently on Disney Plus. I'm assuming that it'll probably be on Disney Plus for a while. And it was produced by Nat Geo, which is under the Disney family.
That's right. And it was out in theaters, although I missed it. Again, another one that I've missed in theaters. But that's how I knew about it. I saw a trailer for it, and it looked interesting. It seemed odd that they would send photographers. Like while this was happening, I thought, well, that's weird. How would they know? Like, I don't know. But of course,
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, did they know that this was going to be kind of like a momentous occasion? And it struck me as odd as well. It's like, this is happening, and then all of a sudden it's all these outsiders coming in, that weren't part of the rescue mission, in addition to like the people like the Navy SEALs and all these people like experts in cave diving and all this stuff. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like maybe they knew that they had something on their hands and they needed to like do something about it. But yeah, it was kind of odd.
Well, and I know that photographing something is an additional process. So right, like you're focused on rescuing these kids and their coach, and oh, but wait, I need to get this shot line up. So could you just do that again? Right. So I thought, oh, that's so interesting that they would send. But then at the end, it tells you like a lot of this footage was reenacted by the actual
Mm-hmm.
people who did it. So that makes much more sense because
Yeah.
while they're like, bringing the kids out one by one, you're just thinking, how did they get this shot? And yes, it's murky, but they're saying they can't see anything down there. And the guy who loses the line at one point,
Mm-hmm.
like you you can see the light, like the lights that they have are bright enough for the camera work that if they were actually doing it at the same time, there's no way he would have lost the line. He would have been able to see it.
Yeah. And then you're like, wait a minute. Yeah. And the confessionals I thought were fantastic. Yeah, very, very interesting. I enjoyed it. I really did. I learned more about like it just seemed like, well, I guess to back up, the rescue is about the Thai cave rescue in 2018, the summer of 2018, when a soccer team, children, go down into a cave with the expectation of coming out. They're just celebrating, I think, a win or something like that. And then there's heavy rainfall that actually floods the cave. And it becomes a complicated matter because it's not necessarily, they can't go back, or they can't go back the way they came in because it's flooded. So there has to be a lot of experts are brought in. It's a very complicated process. And they're kind of like, it elevates the stakes because you're running out of time to go and rescue them, but then also there's all these outside operations that are trying to validate kind of their techniques for the rescue. So you have deep sea divers, you have the Navy SEALs at some point, and you have ongoing teams that are trying to kind of test the waters in the first part of the cave until they go into the back of the cave to try to extract the kids. So
Yeah, I learned a lot too. Like I've been on a couple resort dives where I've like done scuba dive, but it's nothing like this. And so it was interesting to find out that the population of cave divers in the world is so small that they have to
mm-hmm.
make their own equipment a lot of times because they don't
Mm-hmm.
have the specialized. It's just not commercially viable to make
Yes.
this stuff in a mass produced way. Maybe it will be now that this movie comes out, but
Yeah. Especially like I didn't know that there were so many caves in Thailand. Actually, that was eye-opening to me. I was like, oh, it's a cave, but yeah, it's just kind of like, well, this cave is constructed differently and there's like thousands of caves. And I was like, whoa, yeah, it was really, really interesting. And I remember because like this event happened over the course of I think like a week or so, and I was working in news at the time. So we were on like the first day that it happened and talking with journalists, and there's like 24-hour coverage of this for over a week of just trying to figure out like what's going on and what they can do. A very harrowing like event for all. And it was just like time stopped. It was like every day you come in and then you're like looking at the big screen going, okay, what's going to happen?
right. And I think so many things were interesting about the way they brought people in to work on this. Like the one guy is married to a woman who's Thai, and that's her hometown. And he just happens to be
Yes.
one of the world's best cave divers.
Yes.
So let's get him in here. And then he knows a bunch of other cave divers. So let's get them in here. I guess it's surprising to me. Well, so many things are surprising, but one of the things is that they not only are there all these caves, but they play in the cave regularly. Like this is just kind of a normal thing that they do. So I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often, honestly. And when they
Yeah.
found that first group of guys that they didn't even know was missing, oh, what are you doing here?
It's like, well, actually, it was remarkable, like seeing how serendipitous like everything was.
Right. And all the
Um,
other sort of no necessarily all the other things that were happening simultaneously. Like it was raining so hard and they were pumping out all this water from the
Mhm.
and then diverting it from that specific part of the river where it was flooding into the cave further. They're running out of oxygen in there. Like props to that coach, man.
Yes.
Keeping them calm for, I think it said they were in there for a total of 18 days, the last ones. Keeping them calm in that situation, getting them to where they were, because it seems unlikely that it doesn't really say how they got to where they were. They were
Yes.
really far back in that cave. There's no way
Yeah.
they went back there regular. Like that
On
was
like a one day. Yeah.
yeah.
It was probably like a multi-day hike, and they expected to, be back at a certain time, but then the weather wasn't in their favor.
Right. Or that they had to keep moving back, right? Like the water was rising. We can't get out the way we came in. Let's just keep moving back.
Yep.
But and see what's back there.
Yeah. It's like, hopefully there's another opening back there. It's like,
And I know that kids play there frequently, but my sense of adventure is not what it should be, but I don't go into caves. Like there's critters in there and like
oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, that's nocturnal animals. And then it's with water, so you never know. Yeah, no.
yeah. But I thought it was great. I did really like the backstories of the divers and how their perspective on what was happening, especially the one guy whose dad was a doctor, and they were talking about the sedation of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they brought that up, I first I didn't think I heard them correctly. It was like, what are they gonna do? But yeah, like that was so surprising. And I knew that the Thai rescue was happening when it was happening back in the day, but I didn't realize that was happening, that was part of it. And I don't know that it was
Even publicized as such.
yeah. So you didn't get the whole picture necessarily from, because they weren't sharing that information.
Mm-hmm.
For
I think it's probably like very controversial how they had to get them out. It was either, oh man, it is like it's a catch, not a catch 22, but it's very sticky situation where it's like you don't want anything bad to happen to them. And the least one scenario involves sedating them. It's like they just looked at kind of, and it can be potentially, I wouldn't say unethical, but like definitely, people probably in the US would frown upon sedating a child to try to get them out. But it keeps, I mean, that's what I really like about this doc, is it keeps the human element of like, these are the options that have to happen here. And I feel like they did a really good due diligence of like testing, getting on every expert that they could, the government being involved in like testing solutions and being very honest about like what works and what doesn't work. Because it could have been like, oh yeah, like it's not working, but it may, they could have just went along and just went ahead with something that was completely wrong in an effort to just, cover things up. So looking at it from that for me, looking at this film in this situation from that perspective, it just really, it was really eye-opening and I really liked it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely gonna go like through the catalog of National Geographic documentaries now and kind of see what I've missed over the years.
Yeah, I wonder if, so I heard of this, I heard that this was coming out, and I think it had a working title at the time when I was working at ABC News. So it was going to be a Nat Geo. I think it was a Nat Geo thing where it was on Nat Geo, but they decided to bring it to Disney Plus as part of the offerings on there alongside, the animated features that are on Disney. But I'm surprised that it's not kind of, I mean, I guess I didn't see it on Hulu. So in terms of like distribution, maybe it was to broaden the audience. And I didn't know it was in the movie theaters too. But I think Nat Geo is really stepping it up with, more of the true coverage of certain events. And especially it has to deal with nature not necessarily working out the way that it should be in situations like this. So I don't know if there's like, cliff diving or mountain climbing, or, I think of things when people climb Mount Everest, and that's a challenge that, so many people want to do. And unfortunately, not a lot of people make it to the summit. And, having that closer view of, kind of the man versus nature aspect of documentaries.
There are a lot of climbing documentaries out there. I say a lot, but that's probably just because I just started watching Meru. There was the Free Solo that came out a couple years ago, and I watched that. And then The Alpinist is being promoted right now on Netflix, I think. And then Meru is another one. Dax is watching all of these. So we started watching Meru the other night, and we're almost all the way through it. And then there's another one called Dirtbag. So there are a lot of climbing documentaries if you want to watch those.
Maybe I'll check it out.
Let me pull up our slide. Average score of 12. Now, we had to modify some of the categories because they don't really apply to documentaries. So the maximum score that you could give a documentary is 15. So this got an average of 12, which is pretty good. Acting doesn't count. Cinematography, I thought it was very good the way they told the story.
Yes.
I didn't give it a 3 because they did have to go back and like recreate a lot of the footage. So I think when you're doing it in controlled environments, relatively controlled environments where you can go back and recreate things, it's better footage, but it's not necessarily as real.
True.
As if you got it then. It's not as real as if you got it during the actual event. But on production set quality, I gave them a 3 because props to them. Those were hard shots to get. And they did go back and get them. The equipment that they probably needed this seems expensive.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this was not an inexpensive documentary to make. So I think probably just the amount of equipment they needed to go back and get those shots was immense. They had to bring the original people back to do them, which I'm sure if those guys had never seen the inside of a cave again, they would be, well, some of them. The cave divers probably loved it, but so for production quality, definitely I gave it a 3. Raiders Choice, I thought it was a great story, especially the stuff that you don't know or that you didn't know is just kind of a casual observer of the story 5 years ago or whenever it happened. And soundtrack is just not like it is what it is.
It's like the average dramatic music or something. Yeah, I mean, that was the reason. My primary reason for giving, a majority of these categories, cinematography, production, and quality set, and Raiders' Choice was a 2 because of the reshoots and kind of that aspect of, I don't know, of, the possibility that this could be monetized in such a way of like this, having this epiphany of like, aha, we're going to do something that's like, later on, we're going to make something very big of this. And maybe, yes, they have to do, they have to come back with lighting and they have to come back with, to the scene. But maybe I'm thinking that this could be something that's done in 5 years, or like a milestone. So 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where the kids can collect and talk about it as well. And I think that like if it were at a milestone, as opposed to, I think it's like 2.5, 3 years ago, because it was from 2018 or 2018. So almost 3.5 years ago, this year, maybe. Yeah, I thought it was a little soonish. Overall, I think it's good and I would recommend.
Agree. So, do you have anything to plug in this episode?
So, as we are starting to go towards award season, we plan on being there with you when the Oscar noms are being read by Tracy Ellis Ross and Leslie Jordan. We will be there with commentary on the selections, because this year for films has been very interesting due to the pandemic. But then also, I think there's some really good artistic choices of holding movies back for this time, making sure that people see it in theaters. And I'd be curious actually to see Netflix and how well they're going to do as a streaming platform versus, some of the studios that are reliant on festivals and theater. What about you, Chris? What do you have to plug?
I don't think I have anything to plug this episode. No. All right. So looking forward to seeing everybody when we do our Oscar nomination session.